Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Van Diesel, back with Card 5 Vanguard deck Parasolace. If you guys enjoyed, don't like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. This time we're covering set 12 for Eugene. So all around, Eugene's a very interesting deck with all these evolutions going around. I think Eugene is well due for one. You know, we have the power. Let's boycott. Let's force out the Eugene evolution. But okay, jokes aside though, Eugene's all around Eugene is slowly getting better. Like that's kind of what I like about Eugene. It's like slow progression of good. Like it used to be. My personal opinion, it wasn't horrible back in set 1. That's pretty much every other word I heard of Eugene was just horrible back in set 1. Then set 2 came around, got a really good card in it. Set 3 came around, okay, we're doing good. Set 4, like, slow progression of good. Not like some hyper anime bullshit where they just get randomly good cards every other day. But Eugene all around is in pretty solid. We got rearguard retiring focus. We got some nice hand card drawing going on. Let's go and see what we got here and see what it does. First up, we have our starter and double gun of Duststorm Bart. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base. Auto and Rotopine for 1 second draw card. Standard starter is just a free draw if you win second. There's not much more I can say about this. None of the ride line really requires Bart, but I mean, might as well go for the full theme of double Duststorm. One other thing I forgot to mention about Eugene is the fact that we've actually gotten a new grade 1 for the ride line, so we definitely could take a look at that. Then we have our over trigger. We have Dragon Deity King of Resurgence Dragveda. I really hope that, I know they won't, but I really hope like the next Road Original over trigger is like a Duststorm unit. I don't care what language it is. I did say before I normally don't like to mix languages outside of English and Japanese, but I mean, hell, I don't care what language it is. If they actually give us one, I will actively take that as the over. Anyways, grade 0 boost 50k shield, 5k base, over trigger, man over trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, gets one for the turn, and if you revealed it during draft check, activate its additional effect, which you can choose one of your Vanguard to stand it. All around pretty solid because in this deck, the Vanguard can get a dual Vanguard attack thanks to one of the boosters. And now with the over trigger, while yes, you would technically lose the ability to get triple Vanguard attack unless you protected the over, you can at least take the chance to stand the Vanguard again, but this time for free. So all around, pretty solid. You either get the 1 million and draw offensively or defensively, so your opponent can't kill you. And if you pull it offensively, you get a free stand to pressure out your opponent with. So one of Dragveda, pretty solid. I mean, sadly with me and Eugene, the typical history is I soul charge it, but now the typical history is I add it to my hand via effect. So one of Dragveda. And then we have our normal triggers. First, we run 3 copies of 3 Flail of Dragon, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continuous guard circle. Your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 triggers, 5k shield, while also being a draw trick, so you know you can help increase your hand. All around very solid. It's good for guarding power, it helps increase hand, and it's just nice to have, and it doesn't deck you out because both like the good thing and in my opinion the sad thing about Eugene is you never really have to use Eugene's top 5 skill anymore, which is what I like, I guess, in the sense of that typically what made me lose the over trigger, but on the downside it's like, man, I can't even use the main effect of Eugene anymore. That's kind of disappointing, but all around, Flail feels very solid, helps increase the hand, it doesn't deck you out, so 3 of. Then we have 4 copies of Blaze Mane and Parama. Grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Continues guard circle. Opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 or greater against with 5k shield. You know, opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 against 5k shield, which all around pretty solid. You know, it's a 20k guard. It's a front trick, so it helps raise the number of the front row, which is nice to have because the deck does hit for decent numbers on front row, but it also wants to hit a little bit more, so the front trick definitely helps with that. And also being a 20k guard is nice because your opponent kind of hits you with big numbers. It does help to at least drop the guard count by 5k, so that's pretty nice to have. Then we have Burning Flow Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power, critical trigger, auto rear at the end of boosted. Put it to soul to choose one of your units, it gets 2k for the turn. All around pretty solid. You know, we have that nice crit pressure going, and while sadly, yes, the restanding way for Eugene that is not the over trigger will drop his critical. At least we have a way to raise his critical back up. But also, while being able to go to soul, which does help increase soul count for Eugene, though Eugene doesn't have a soul problem, it's nice to have it just in case. It also gives 2k, which I think one time it actually made the difference, which was nice to think about. Either way, the Burning Flow is a very solid grade 0. It goes to soul, it gets 2k, so I'll talk about it 4 of. Then we have our heal trigger and White Light Dragon Parasolace. Grade 0 boost 50k shield, 5k power. Just a free heal. Nuts about it. I don't really like the effect heals too much because they're a constant 10. Or sorry, I don't like the effect heals too much because the normal heals are a constant 15k shield, while the effect heals are fluctuating 10 to 25k shields. And while overall they do have more shield, it's only in specific situations. So I'd rather have a consistent 15k over the fluctuating 10 to 25. But whatever heals you want. But I do go Parasolace because Parasolace was in the set Eugene came out with. Like at this point, they're family. Then we move on to our grade 1s. First, we're on 4 copies of Wild Bullet of Duststorm Clifton. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, act, auto rear. When this unit attacks or boost, if your opponent's rear guard was retired by the ability of your Vanguard this turn, this unit gets plus 2k power into the battle for each of your opponent's open rear guard circles. All around pretty solid because it doesn't matter whether it's swinging or boosting, and it doesn't matter either what grade your Vanguard's at. In fact, if for some reason your opponent called a grade 1 to rear guard and they went first, and then your turn comes around, and then for some reason you are able to kill that rear guard, you can kill that rear guard, call Clifton, and Clifton will get a total of plus 10. It's weird that that's possible, but it's a possibility. Either way, though, being able, well, then it has to be retired by the Vanguard's ability, but still. So being able to become an 18k swinger in the late game when you board nuke your opponent, or at least get 2k for every open rearguard your opponent has, pretty solid. And then all the rearguard at the end about to boost it if you have a Vanguard with Eugene in its card name. Oh, look at that, not specifying which Eugene, implying that we're going to get another one soon. But she make it happen, please. Anyways, if the Vanguard's Eugene, retire it to choose up to 3 cards from your soul, and if you chose 1 or more, return them to the deck and shuffle. If you not countercharge this turn, you get to countercharge 1. So, regardless, you can get a possible, let's say you have 3 of these in the back row for some reason, you can possibly get 9 cards for free. Granted, you're only going to countercharge once, but the rest of this ability is not restricted to that, so possible 9 free cards back. But here's the important part. Any 3 cards in your soul can be returned to the back to the deck. Doesn't matter if they're units, orders, or any other type of thing, meaning you can send this back. It's such a damn shame, too, that when I finally get to the point where I don't have to use Eugene's, or well, using Eugene's skill in general is more of a deficit than a plus, unless I got board nuked in response, I get the ability to send the thing I typically soul charge back to deck. Either way, though, Clifton, very solid grade 1, can recycle triggers back, possibly get countercharged to open up CB, and is possibly an 18k swinger booster. 4 of Clifton, very solid grade 1, can't say more about it. Then we have 4 copies of Assault, Bullet, Duststorm, Oswald. Pretty much 3 of them are here just in case, and then the last one's actually here to be useful. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto rear guard. At the end about this unit, boosted Vanguard with Eugene in its card name. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater and they have no rear guards, by counterblasting 1 and discarding 1, you can choose one of Vanguards and stand it and increase or decrease its critical and drive to 1 until end of turn. So, sadly, its critical and drive will be decreased to 1, but that doesn't mean it can't go back up via critical triggers. But, you know, being able to restand the Vanguard is nice. The only downside is it requires the opponent to have no rear guards. You know what I refuse to believe happens consistently? The fact that whenever I get Oswald, it's physically impossible for me to board nuke my opponent enough to where I can actually use a skill. But then for some reason, every turn that I don't have Oswald, I can consistently bury my opponent's board into the grave. So I don't know why it happens, why whenever I have Oswald, I can't nuke their board, but whenever I don't have Oswald, I can nuke their board. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like the deck hates me, and like Oswald doesn't want to show up. But I mean, you know, being able to stand the Vanguard is nice pressure. It's only for a CB and a hand card drop, and if you ever run into a CB problem with this deck, well, Clifton kind of fixes that. So 4 of Oswald, very solid grade 1. The only downside is it has to specifically boost a Vanguard with Eugene. I really wish it would just boost any unit with Eugene's card and then it can be a little bit more valuable, but hey, it's nice to have 4 of in the main deck. Sadly, it's useless on any other rear guard except for the back center, but that is what it is. Then we have our 4 PGs in Twin Buckler Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 social base, contains set on you may have 4 cells in deck and also put in guard circle. Choose one of your units, it cannot be hit till the battle, and if your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from your discard it. Standard PG, nothing special about it. Big needs. If this only one card is placed on a guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. This deck has suddenly become a really good grade 1 rush deck with Clifton over here. So when your opponent heavily counterattacks you for rushing them, you just throw down the PG, and then because you probably have only 1 hand card, most likely a Persona Ride, you don't have to discard anything, which is great because that means you can survive the big attack, and then when your next turn comes around, Persona Ride, do big combos, and hopefully kill your opponent off there, or nuke their board for going too far into the extension. So 4 Twin Buckler Dragon, very solid PG. You can run Plasma Catapult Dragon because they have the exact same skill, but I prefer Twin Buckler because Twin Buckler came out when Eugene came out. Then we move on to our last grade 1. So I don't run the new grade 1 for Eugene. I forgot what it was, but I remember the reason why I didn't run it is it just didn't feel good to me for whatever reason it was. I remember reading its skill and I was like, I just like Nigel more. I don't remember what his skill is either. Except for like, I think you have to retire a rested unit to call it from soul and give it 5k, but at that point I was just like, I would just rather run Orlando because Orlando can also give the Vanguard 5k whenever I swing. So I think that was the reason why I didn't run it, but I don't remember the other reason. Anyways, gunning up Duststorm Nigel, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, AK base, auto when it's rode upon by a Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor, soul charge 1. Cool. Free soul charge, downside it's mandatory, so you could lose a trigger off this, or it could put you closer to taking on if it's only 1 card, but hey, it's a free soul charge. Then auto rear guard, when your opponent's rear guard is retired during your main phase by counterblasting when retiring this unit, choose an opponent's rear guard and kill it. All around, pretty solid. Granted, it's in this deck now. It is physically impossible to, like, loop it back to deck or call it out from soul to then kill a rear guard on top of being rested during the main phase via a Eugene skill. But hey, you know what? If you manage to run this into the main deck or manage to find a way to get on rear, it is a very solid grade 1 because it provides rest target for Eugene, and then you can kill it to kill another rear guard as well. So technically you kill 2 in 1. So all around, Nigel is a very solid grade 1 of in the ride deck, and if you find space to run in the main deck, honestly, maybe tech down 2 Oswalds for it, it would be worth it because again, it's free fodder. So 1 of Nigel in the ride deck. Then we have 3 copies of Inscribing Bullet of Duststorm Backstore, our first grade 2. Grade 2 units have 5k shield, 10k base, continuous rear guard. During the battle, this unit attacked there's about this unit is attacked by an opponent's unit other than the same column as it cannot be hit. So basically, if your opponent's Vanguard swings at this, it's not, unless somehow this is in the back center, your opponent's specifically swinging at back center towards it, it can't be hit. So basically, whatever's directly opposing is the only thing that can kill it, which is great. So you don't have to worry about this dying. Hell, it can get over Vermilion if I'm correct, because Vermilion is in a different column, which is nice to think about. And this other build is auto rear guard. When your opponent's other rear guard in the same column as the unit is retired during your turn, choose one of your vanguards, and that and this unit both get plus 5k power on the turn. All around, pretty solid, because it doesn't matter if it's in the front row or back row. It can stack. So I believe one of the fun plays I made with this, I called 2 of them to separate columns, and I basically board nuked both columns. And while I was 1 rear guard short of being able to kill the back center, guess who was in my hand at that time? But thanks to that, I got a free plus 20 to the vanguard, and both backsters were swinging at a total, well, technically free plus 30 to Vanguard, because one of those retires was from Eugene's skill. So Eugene was at a total of 43, but actually he was at a total of, oh wait, no, he was at a total of 43. Because, no, 53. Because he also had a Persona on top of that. So, 10 from the Persona, 10 from Eugene's skill, 20 from these fuckers. And then these 2 were both at a total of 30. So, all around pretty solid. Does roll for numbers, does a skill for free, and literally cannot be hit unless it's in the same column as him. So, 3 of Baxter. Very solid, grade 2, and I like him a lot. The worst thing is, too, I used to hate him, too. What I've learned is that any card I used to hate, at some point I begin to like, and that card becomes really important to my deck style. So, 3 of Baxter. Then we have 4 copies of probably my friend's, based off just the way he talks, favorite grade 2 for Eugene, and that is Howitzer of Duststorm Dustin. In my opinion, the name is my favorite by a long shot, but I think it's actually his favorite grade 2 in general, because he spams it so much. Grade 2 is a 5k shield, 10k base, auto when it's placed on rear guard circle. If your Vanguard is heavy artillery, Duststorm Eugene, put a hand card to soul to draw a card, choose your opponent's grade 2 or greater rear guard and to kill it. All around pretty solid, free hand card put to draw another card to replace it, and then you kill an opponent's rear guard that's grade 2 or higher, which means you can trigger more skills off, you get more soul for Eugene. The only downside is, and right now it's not a downside, but I do, I know for a damn fact Bushy is going to evolve Eugene by the end of D. That's going to be a fun thing. I forgot what it was in old day Vanguard, but I think Bushy did something and it kind of annoyed a little bit of people. Or there's another game that I used to play, and I don't remember what it was, but pretty much the game ended before this thing that everyone wanted came out, and it was kind of hinted at a little bit that it might happen. So just the fact that we have other cards like Eugene specified but not specifying what Eugene, if we do eventually get one, which I'm pretty sure people will boycott if we don't get one by the end of D, it would be nice to have, but sadly this would be useless in that scenario. But hey, either way, getting a free soul, draw, and kill something is pretty nice. And then auto rear guard when it attacks by soul blasting 1. This unit gets plus 2k power to end the battle for each of your opponent's open rear guard circles. Cool if they have an open board, free 20k swing. Very nice to have. It literally kind of fills its cost forward stuff. It's not a hard once per turn, meaning if you find a way to restand it, it's going to get more power. Granted, it's only till the end of battle, but still. But also you can have a second one on board and still get numbers out of it. 4 of Dustin, when the chips are down and you can only kill your opponent's rear guards, but your field is kind of empty, Dustin's there to get your numbers. So 4 of Dustin. Then we have last grade 2, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck of Cataclysmic Bullet of Duststorm Randor. Grade 2 intercept 5k shield, 10k base, auto and rode upon by heavy artillery of Duststorm Eugene to draw a card, and then choose to 1 card from your drop zone, put it to your soul. I still remember how every time I played Deer Days, for some reason, I think his name was Doshi, Doshi's AI never sent a card from drop zone to soul. I don't know why it never did that. I have video proof on my channel because I always checked his soul too, and he never sent something to soul from. I don't know why, but he never chose to. Either way, the free draw and a free soul charge of just riding to a Eugene is pretty great, or specifically heavy artillery Duststorm Eugene is pretty great. And then the other skill, which granted I haven't seen gameplay from anyone else with Eugene in a while except for my friends, but I remember the last time I saw gameplay outside of theirs, no one ever used this skill for some arbitrary reason. I don't know why. Granted, that was all the way back in set 7, but still. Anyways, auto Vanguard or rear guard circle. When this unit attacks into anything, whether it's Vanguard or rear guard, if your opponent has only 2 or less rear guards, so at most they have 3 units on board, counterblast 1 to soul charge 1, and this unit gets 5k power for the battle. All around pretty solid because it's a simple CB, and this deck, unless you get into the really late game, doesn't really have a CB problem. Thanks to Clifton, well, there's no such thing as a CB problem anymore. So being able to soul charge 1 is great because that helps set up for Eugene, and then also being a 15k swing is nice as well, and it works on Vanguard or rear guard, so if you find a way to call out from drop zone, it's pretty nice for combos as well. So one of in the right deck of Randor, none in the main deck, sadly. He is one of my favorite grade 2s of all time, and the only reason I don't run is because I like these 2 more, but all I'm saying is this: if we do actually get an evolved form of Eugene, if this skill becomes useless, I might actually consider just running this in the main deck unless that Eugene combos really well with other grade 2s, because I actually do love Randor a lot. So one of Randor in the right deck and in the main deck. And then we move on to our grade 3s. 2 copies of the thing that at this point I just would feel bad for getting rid of, and that is Penetrate, Drag, and Tri-Bash. Grade 3, 20% 13k base, auto rear guard. When your Vanguard attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rear guards, put this unit to soul, choose your Vanguards, and it gets +1 critical for the battle. Okay, It's nice. It gets an extra crit. It combos well with the restander because its crit would drop down to 1 anyways at the end of the battle, so it does well with it. And as we all know, back in like set 1, I think to even set 3 days, I remember the last time me pulling this off, you pretty much increased your Vanguard's crit to double when the opponent's at 2 damage. Then your opponent takes that, you pull double crit, and you win. Like, I feel bad for getting rid of Tri-Bash because, like, even just getting rid of 1 copy, I felt so bad for, because, like, Tri-Bash pretty much been there through thick and thin for Eugene. It was like, I guess, like, the way I heard people talk about it, like, the tone of voice they would take kind of made it seem like Tri-Bash was the redeeming factor of Eugene at, like, early D, or at least, like, the way, again, I said the way people talked about it. But, like, I feel bad now slowly getting rid of Tri-Bash, knowing that, like, he was there since the beginning and was a real good card for Eugene. And when we eventually get to that point, I'm going to be like, man, let's, like, an evolution of Tri-Bash. Like, specifically, it's, like, something Tri-Bash, and then, like, let's just say extra, even though they're never going to call it that. I swear to God if they do. But, like, you know, point is, like, where it's obviously an evolution. Then, okay. Then I will accept it. But unless it's, like, an actual evolution and not just, like, a card that is better, I will feel bad because Tri-Bash has been with us in the beginning. But 2 of Tri-Bash, extra crit pressure, does well for Vanguard, and is a good rest target for Eugene, 2 of. Then we have 3 copies of Hunting Artillery of Duststorm Firehouse. Okay, well, this might be my friend's favorite grade 2. This is 100% my friend's favorite grade 3 by a long shot. Grade 3, 10% 13k base. Auto when placed on Rearguard Circle if you have Vanguard with Eugene in the card name. Again, not specifying Eugene. Counterblast 1 and discard 1. Search deck for up to 1 grade 3 normal unit without Regalia's piece. Reveal it, put it to your hand, shuffle your deck. All around, pretty solid. This deck doesn't run the Regalia's piece, you don't have to worry about it. But being able to search a grade 3 normal order, my friend's only reason for playing this deck, sadly. You can basically get that card back and only pay a counterblast out of it, which is nice. And its other abilities, auto rearguard once per turn. When your opponent's rearguard is retired by your card's ability during your main phase, Soul Blast want to stand this unit in, this unit gets boost for the turn. All around, pretty solid, you know, being able to blast out 1 card just to stand him is nice. And again, this deck doesn't really use Eugene's skill, so being able just to get from a free Ends of Life of Soul is pretty nice to have. But also, he's a rest target for Eugene. Tri-Bash a rest target for Eugene. So is Baxter to some extent, because he can still get the Vanguard's numbers. If you find a way to call this is a rest target for Eugene. And for me, this is a rest target for Eugene, because again, most of the time it's a vanilla, except for my friend plays this exact same deck. He can pull it off consistently for some arbitrary reason. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So 5 of our units are rest targets for Eugene, which is nice to have. And obviously, he can stand himself. So all around, pretty solid. Is a booster, is a restander to some extent, and also by the fact it could get your main order, which this deck really needs for its combos to pull off. So all around, very solid grade 3. 3 of you can say consistently enough. Then we have our last unit in the deck, not the last card in the deck though. 1 of in the main deck, 3 of in the right, swap those. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck of Heavy Artillery of Duststorm Eugene. My boy's been around us through thick and thin, and I finally feel connected with Eugene, but my god, if we get a new Eugene, I'm gonna cry. Grade 3, 10% 13k base, active Vanguard Circle once per turn by resting any 2 rear guards. Again, targets are endless here. You can retire an opponent's rear guard and then get plus 10k power for the turn. All around, pretty solid. Free rear guard Duke, and then also becoming a 23k base, pretty solid. The best part is you don't have to kill something to get to 23k, so all around pretty solid. And then act Vanguard Circle once per turn. Sadly, the ability to never use anymore, but I wait for the days where I can use the ability properly. My main thing with it is that I can always meet the requirements to kill the rear guards, except my board is full, and I hate calling over my shit, so at that point, I'm either Soul Blasting 5 to call 2 units on top of 2 rested units, and again, I hate doing that. Or I'm just Soul Blasting 5 just to Soul Charge some arbitrary number, so it's kind of 50-50. Either way though, Soul Blast 5, if your opponent's rear guard is retired during this turn, so look at the top 5 cards of your deck, or look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open rear guard circles, so 5 if you're my friend who can consistently kill my board, or for me, it's somewhere between 3 and 4, because Oswald likes to show up half the time and doesn't allow me to nuke my board for some reason. Again, I said, I don't know why when Oswald's in my hand, I can't nuke the board, and then when Oswald's not there, I can nuke the board. But anyways, look at the same number equal to open rearguard circles. Choose any number of unit cards among them, call them to rearguard circle, put the rest in soul. So technically speaking, you don't have to call any. You can just soul charge all of them. But, you know, you could use them to call rearguards over the rest of stuff that you used for this thing skill, and also just soul charge the rest of soul. Again, this is normally how I hit the over into soul, but thanks to Clifton, when the deck eventually comes where I can use Eugene's skill again, I can fetch it back to soul. So 3 of them in the main deck, 1 of them in the right deck. He's good just because it's a free 10k that's easy to get, and you have enough rest targets to where it's very easy to use his skill without minusing at all. And again, being able to technically make a full board out of nowhere is pretty solid as well. So 3 of Eugene in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. And then the last card in the deck is literally my friend's main reason for running this. 3 copies of Best Harvest. My god, I hate this thing so much just because of what he does when he plays this. Grade 3, normal order. Choose every vanguards until end of turn. It gets auto vanguard. When your opponent's rearguards retired during your main phase, you draw a card. Downside, these are all mandatory draws. So if your opponent has a full board of rearguards and you kill each of them, you are forced to draw 5, which is how I beat him one time. I literally forced him to deck himself out without realizing it. Or to be more exact, I almost beat him. And then he stopped. The one time when he's on a bit, he stopped. And that's the one time that it made the difference. He went to 3 deck cards and he pulled a trigger. Or I think he pulled a crit. Like, there was still a draw deck. I don't know why he kept going, but I'm so upset by that. The fact that he knew what I was trying to do and he waited till the last one. And he still took that risk and he still won. Man, that was it was funny, but it was dumb at the same time. Either way, though, free draw, very helpful because Eugene first grade 3 turn tends to have a hand problem without this, but then the second you use it, thankfully it's searchable via Fire Ash, you immediately go into a non-hand problem. And when you combo with stuff like Dustin, who can send hand cards to Soul, and then draw a card, you're technically drawing 2 off it. So all around best harvest, very solid grade 3 order, free to play. It's easy draws during your main phase. The only downside is it only works specifically during your main phase, but on the bright side, that leaves you less time to deck yourself out. So 3 cards of best harvest. Very solid order, free draws, does everything the decks need, just good card. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it's a very fun deck to play. I know my friend could definitely tell you that from experience because he gets to pull off all of his cards consistently. I can't, sadly, thanks to, again, Oswald's and mine hatred toward each other. But again, being able to get a bunch of free draws for stuff like Best Harvest, being able to kill a lot of rear guards consistently with Eugene, Dustin, proccing off numbers off of stuff like Baxter, it's all around just pretty solid. So without further ado, I'm going to end this one here. I hope you guys enjoyed. I can't wait to get a new Eugene. I really hope we get one soon because next week we are, or technically speaking, this upcoming week, we're going to get Dragon Empire cards. Granted, they said generic recycler, but I'm really hoping randomly we get a new Eugene. If we do, I will cry tears of joy. So without further ado, I'm going to end this one here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord follow. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your vanguards.